I'm Sam. I'm living in the Czech Republic, but I'm originally from the UK. I've been living here 9 years or so now, and I have a dating and relationship coaching business. So I'm helping professionals and entrepreneurs find their dream partner. So I'm coaching guys, I'm helping men to find the woman of their dreams, the partner that they really want. And my clients are people who they have other parts of their life under control, typically, to whatever extent they can. They're happy in their career, they've worked hard they've gone through school, they've got a good job, they've done all the things that they think they should do, but they just don't have the partner, the relationship to go with it. And I think a lot of people can relate to that being a missing piece of the puzzle. So yeah, I'm helping people to find that missing piece of the puzzle.
Awesome, man. And so, okay, let's talk about what drew you into mindset coaching. What were your main mindset challenges?
Good question. I think we had a lot of things to try and unpack and uncover, right? But I mean, honestly, I felt very lost. I'd fallen out of love with my business. I felt very frustrated. I was in a place where, I mean, it's not like we always have to just feel happy every day, but like I'd really kind of lost that. I felt like I'd lost myself, would be the best way to put it. I said to you many times, it was like old Sam would have been like this, because I think I'm generally quite a positive, optimistic kind of guy. But some things had happened and I really had lost that. I'd really felt like I'd lost myself and I didn't know why. And I was associating that actually with the business, things that were frustrating me. I was kind of thinking it was this reason or that reason. I couldn't really understand what it was. I couldn't really understand where it was coming from. So I just reached a point of, very much feeling frustrated, very much questioning, myself. And do I like this? Do I like that? Do I lack a work ethic? Or what do I have wrong with me? What's wrong with me that's holding me back? And I wasn't sure exactly what that was or why that I was in that situation, but I definitely got to a point of generally day to day feeling quite frustrated, quite negative, quite pessimistic, not positively associating with my business, and actually thinking that my business was kind of the problem. It was like that was the cause of my unhappiness, or that was the thing, and that was really the place I was in, where that was how I kind of saw things. And then I was led to this because obviously I've worked with other coaches. I am a coach myself. I mean, anyone that wants to figure out a part of life, you should obviously be looking for help and guidance and advice. And you'd been recommended to me as well. And I'd been curious to kind of find out more about mindset coaching and not just in a business context, but I believed that I was probably the common denominator, right? So it doesn't matter what part of life I was looking at. If we look back to then as well, I felt like I was maybe not quite achieving what I could in other parts of life. Other things that you can always look outwards, but then I kind of realized, like, well, what's the common denominator? It's me. And so if I work on this, whether it be in a business context or whatever way we start, obviously I am the deciding factor. So I was sure it would also help me in other parts of life too.
You talked about the way in which you were feeling, the ways in which you were feeling. And at a certain point, you were associating the way you were feeling with the business and thinking that the business was the reason for the way you were feeling. What are some different examples of how these feelings, this kind of conditioning that you had been experiencing, how was it impacting or affecting your business in any which way that you can kind of draw an example?
Yeah, I felt very trapped. I felt very forced to do things in the business. So that was a big problem. It was like, you start a business because it's something that you love to help people with. It's something that you enjoy. You're drawn towards doing something. Obviously, I went into relationship and dating coaching. You've gone into mindset coaching. Other people might go into fitness coaching, probably because they have a passion there, probably because that's something that they would love to talk about and they're really interested in it and they want to help people. But then because it had not because it had become a business, but the way that I'd associated it becoming a business, started to feel like a job. It felt like I was on a hamster wheel, that I was really stuck and like forced to do these things. So you kind of, things you would have liked to do before started to be like, oh, like I have to do this. I have to make content. I have to message people, whatever it is, and I have to do these things, instead of it coming from a place of enjoying and getting to do them, or getting to do them. It felt very forced. And then I really kind of associated negatively with these key tasks in my business. So, you know, I even started to doubt, you know, do I like to help my clients? Because I saw it as the business as a whole was a problem. And so then I started to have negative associations to many different factors. Like you start to question everything, like, oh, do I even like helping people? Am I able to help people? That frustration was just building, that feeling of negativity was building. It could be, yeah, like making content, or there's key tasks that everybody in this industry knows what they need to do. There's key things that we should be doing, and things that move the needle forward on the business or in the business. And I just really started to almost resist those things, or feel like I didn't want to do those things. But then it was funny, because I wanted greater success, however you want to measure that. I wanted to feel this way. And often that was on the other, I would say that, but then I wouldn't do the things necessarily that would maybe get me to where I wanted to be. And then I would look to blame other things. Maybe it'd be external factors, or, you know, it's the niche, it's the, I don't know, the people especially difficult for me, or, you know, so I started to kind of look outwards at like, what are these things that I can blame, and what are these things that are the reason behind this? And yeah, overall, I just had built up I was just really confused. I didn't understand, yeah, if it was the actual business that was a problem, if it was, let's say, the niche that was a problem, or had I just associated those things with a negative mindset towards the business in general, or whatever you want to call it. So it really felt like it had like poisoned the whole thing. And rather than it being from a place of where, you know, like we've said a few times, if you look at my life, you look at the way I live, the things I have, it's like, why am I not happy? Why do I not enjoy my day-to-day life? And that is the point that I'd reached. So it really came up in different parts of life. I would feel anxiety, pressure, stress, no enjoyment. There was no enjoyment behind it. It's like I'd work and I built something that's great from the outside, but for me on the inside, I felt kind of miserable. I felt kind of unfulfilled. I felt less happy, even though I had, let's say, more than you would have ever had. And I couldn't understand why that was.
So it sounds like what you're describing is you had formed a negative association with the business. And this is so common, not just with entrepreneurs and business owners or coaches, but just the human mind, is that the ego mind will always look, it is just designed to look outside of itself as the reason to find the reason or the source for my problems, pain, suffering, my unhappiness with life is because of what's going on outside of me. You know, a lot of people will kind of think that this is about productivity coaching, or just finding, you know, how to hack out more hours in a day to get more done. And really what you're describing here is a misalignment between the conscious and the unconscious mind. Because at the same time, you're going, well, I wanted more, and I also know how I should think and feel and what I should be doing with my business. However, at the same time, I'm not thinking and feeling in that way. I have this kind of disempowering association with my business. And therefore, that also then influenced the kind of behaviors that I was experiencing, and also the action that I was taking in my business. Because what you're describing is really having formed a negative association with, oh, I don't want to have to do this because I'm not enjoying it. I'm not liking it. And therefore, why would I do it if I don't have a positive association with what I have to do?
Well, there's a couple of things that I just thought of as well that are important and connected to that. But one of them is I was longing to feel how I wanted to feel, or how I used to feel. And I would say, like I said, the old Sam would be like this. So I had this opportunity, mentors in my life, whatever it was, great platform from which to work, a way to serve people. And then it was like, I felt like it was like a shame, because it was like, oh, Sam a few years ago with this opportunity, what he would do. you know, he with the right mindset and the right approach to life, how I felt like I truly was, what that guy would do with this opportunity, where it felt like the opportunity had been given to the wrong person. And it was like, if you could have matched the opportunity with the person. And it's like you said, I was really longing to unplug that and get back to who I actually deep down was, but I'd kind of lost and then got frustrated in the fog of everything and the stress and the day to day of whatever comes with business. And then another part that I think is important to cover, which, you know, I think you really, really helped me with. Obviously, we'll talk more in a bit about what I've helped you with, I'm sure. But the great thing is, I was so lost in not knowing, and maybe other people relate to this. I definitely had technical problems with the business. There were things that I was trying to do that were just not necessarily technically the right things to do in the business at this stage, let's say, or not the most efficient, effective actual processes in the business. And then I obviously also had the mindset problems. I had the way I was seeing this. And that was where I got so confused and so lost. And I think a lot of people probably feel the same, because, you know, you obviously you need an empowering, healthy, good mindset. But if you're doing the wrong things, if the process itself doesn't work or isn't quite what you're looking for, then you could have the best mindset in the world, but the process is still broken. But then you can get so lost and confused because you're like, well, I don't know, is it a process problem? Is it a system problem? Is it a mindset problem and an approach to this problem? Is it maybe a bit of both? And you're in a position where you see both sides. So you obviously have business success and you can see the practicalities of business, especially this kind of business. But then you also see, so you could see, okay, is it maybe a process problem? But then also, where is there the mindset issue there and the internal problem? Because yes, a lot of things are going to come back to the internal, but I think so many people must be so confused, and I definitely was. Like, where is it genuinely an external problem and where is it an internal problem? Because external problems would say, you know, if it was only internal problems, it would be like, oh, well, you know, obviously the process works and the system works, but you're just not approaching it the right way, or you're not hustling hard enough, or whatever you want to call it. You're procrastinating, or you've got limiting beliefs and stuff like that. Whereas if it was just an external problem, then you'd have to focus on that differently. And I think that was just where I was at too, was very, very lost, not knowing what the actual problem was anymore. So obviously you really helped me on both sides, the system and the process, and then also the actual mindset side.
And that's a really good point to bring up, because when someone is stuck in that uncertainty or overwhelm or doubt, and they're not clear as to, well, is it this? Is it that? Is it both? Which is it? What's going on? It just, and the end result of staying in that state is kind of stuckness, just being more stuck and not really moving forward. And so clarity is the real answer to that one, and decluttering and really gaining a clear understanding of what's the challenge. Therefore, when we understand what's the challenge, here's the solution. It becomes self-evident usually at that point. You because we described the associations, the negative associations, the disempowering associations that had formed within your business. Let's discuss them, how you feel now. What are your associations like with business? What's the general relationship that you experience with your business? So let's focus in on the results, and in comparison to what you described earlier and anything else that you maybe have not mentioned yet, what's it like now?
Yeah, there's a couple of things that I just thought of too, because one of the things I really wanted to improve was like my emotional equilibrium, or at least my awareness, instead of, you know, I'd have very up and down emotions. It would be like, oh, I like the business, or oh, I hate the business, or I feel good about this, I feel bad about this. I had real swings of like mood and emotions. So that was a real way that it really showed up. That was something I really wanted to improve, was that. And then the other thing was really just the getting, let's say, get my mojo back, right? Or kind of just understand why I was feeling down or negative, with negative association, but also just generally feeling not really myself. And yeah, I think that they were two of, and then obviously getting clarity in terms of, I'd say clarity in terms of why I was in the situation, but also how I actually wanted my business to be. So they were some really key things that I didn't even necessarily know at the beginning that I was looking for, but ultimately that we worked on. So in terms of results, yeah, my emotional awareness or equilibrium, let's say, has become much better, because you mentioned this a lot, you talk about it a lot. I really was in like a fog, or just a trance that was controlling me. And because it had been going on so long, I started to think that that like was me, and I was not able to be aware. So, you know, that's another huge thing that we worked on, is that kind of disassociation in some ways. So realizing that you are not this trance, you are not this fog. This is just a program. This is just a way of thinking that you've built up and reinforced because of the situation that you found yourself in. So I've managed to become way more aware of that, and to associate with that less, and to kind of catch myself when if I'm falling into that kind of trap, because beforehand I could be in there for days or weeks and not see out of it. Whereas now I'm like, oh, this is happening. I'm way more aware of what's happening in terms of not falling into a program or a trance. I have much more equilibrium, and generally like emotionally much more stable, much less significant like swings with the mood, or at least being aware of it, and knowing how to catch that, and why it's happening and what to do about it. And one of the biggest things was just really, it was like a huge weight off my shoulders, was realizing that what I said was like the old Sam, and that feeling that I wanted to have, or the mojo, whatever you want to call it, like happiness, let's say, is still there. I'd just been kind of forcing it down by all of these things that had been piled on top of it. And we've managed to get to a point where, yeah, I'm not always like feeling on top of the world. I don't think anyone does that, right? But I'm generally back to my base level of, you know, optimism, positivity, feeling good about things, feeling good about the business, enjoying my business and enjoying my life, which I think is why everybody, you know, if you get into entrepreneurship or self-employment or starting a business, like a big part of that is that you want to enjoy your life, or you want to serve people, but you also want to, you know what, if you have a job and you're stuck in your job, maybe you're stuck in the job and it like, maybe it doesn't make you unhappy, but it's a cause to maybe be unhappy. You know, if you build a business, you're not building it so that you can feel miserable, right? So you're kind of building it because you want to enjoy it. And then we really have got to a point where now I feel much more positive about the business. I enjoy the business more, which is, I mean, it's bringing at least the same results as when it felt really difficult and a struggle. And I'm confident it will bring better results because it's coming from a place of joy and enjoyment and wanting to do it, instead of like having and force and pressure and like grinding your way through it. So that's been huge, that kind of feeling of like getting back to my base level of general happiness, positivity, feeling like my old self. Yeah, emotional awareness and stability. And then massively that awareness of when this trance or this program or this program that was running me for so long, becoming aware of like when that's, let's say, creeping up, and even just knowing like, oh, okay, like I'm not going to fall into that, and I know where that comes from, and I know what to do to kind of stop it and catch it and not fall into that trance.
What you're describing in essence, Sam, is going from disempowerment on the victim or effect side of the cause and effect equation to
Yep.
I'm empowered regardless of what's going on around me.
Yeah,
that's exactly. Massive. Yeah.
No, it's really huge, and it's you know, I can't really begin to explain how significant it's been, because you know, I've had a lot of realizations over the time that we've worked together, and really just becoming more in alignment with like how I want to be, how I want to live, what's important to me, and how I'd like the business to be, rather than, you know, necessarily just the pressures of self-imposed or externally just put on you. You know, it's kind of, you actually get that alignment and understanding, and then that just, honestly, like it was the way that I was feeling, I thought it was because of the business, but the way I was feeling before was just negatively impacting literally all parts of my life. It was impacting my relationship with my girlfriend, it was impacting my general health and happiness, and probably sleep and anxiety levels and stuff like that. Like it does impact every part of your life. It's not just on a business side. And so to have that kind of weight off your shoulders and these realizations and this breakthrough, if you carried on that way, who knows what would have happened? The business wouldn't have lasted very long or been very successful. And from a place of enjoyment, let's say, relationships could have been damaged because of that. So, like it really helped me it was one of the main catalysts of like realization and change that I've had recently that's actually massively helped me make that shift. Everything that happened in this business was literally impacting every part of my life and definitely having a negative impact on my mindset, my sense of well-being and enjoyment and happiness. And whilst you can't just blame external things, I think this is if you don't have a good understanding of that, if you don't have somebody like yourself to help you, like that literally hits you very often and in such short time increments that I think it can get really dangerous.
Would you say there were any kind of surprises that, things that you were maybe not expecting or anticipating before having joined the program, and then going through it, go, oh, this is a surprise?
A surprise? I'm not quite sure. I mean, I think I didn't really know what to expect, so I kind of went in like open-minded. Perhaps the surprise would be, like, honestly, it wasn't like I was massively broken, is like something we spoke about recently, because definitely I'd started to think like there's just something really wrong with me, right? Or I must be extremely weak-minded, or I must be a broken individual, or I don't know, I'm this, that, or the other, which is why I'm feeling this way, or this is happening. But it was just kind of nice to actually realize, like, maybe the surprise was like, I'm not broken, I'm not damaged, I haven't lost this, idea of like how I want to feel or how I want to be. That's like actually who I truly am. And it's like you always say about like the cork analogy, right? Like you're pushing it down, and if you just kind of let it go, it rises to the top. So that's one thing, is like I'm not actually a completely damaged individual or something like this, or that person still exists, which is surprising, but also really reassuring, that feeling that I had. And then also maybe I was surprised by, I was never skeptical because I'm open-minded to all of these different things, but like the power of some of the things that you taught me to do, that maybe people, they might think like, oh, that doesn't sound like it would be very impactful, or that's just kind of like, oh, like I don't know if I believe in that stuff. So actually that's incredibly powerful. That's another thing. And then also just how true it is about the levels of consciousness. Like once you learn about consciousness, you can start to see it all around you. You can see it in every part of your life. And I think just how actually true that is maybe quite surprising, because once you've had your eyes open to it and you really understand it, you're like, oh yeah, like this literally describes perfectly my experience that I have been facing or enduring or whatever. So I would say those three things maybe are like the surprises, in terms of maybe surprises or not quite understanding how impactful it could be.
If you were to speak to the Sam before you joined the program, before you started this journey, what would you say to that version of you? Maybe if there's a version, I know you said you didn't really have a lot of doubts because you're an open-minded individual, but what would you say now, speaking to a previous version of yourself?
I'd probably, honestly, I'd give him a hug, to be honest. Like, that's the way I would describe it, because I would be like, I think that guy needed it. Like, the place I was in, he probably needed a hug, to be honest, to kind of let him know that, like, it's okay, but not in that, you know what I'm saying? Like, not in that way, but like, genuinely, that's probably my first reaction is, this, as we said, it's, I was very lost and I was very frustrated, but probably just to kind of let him know that it's not all his fault, or he's not all to blame, or he's not permanently damaged or broken, like we said. And also just say to him, like, yeah, like go in with an open mind to what you're about to do. Actually apply the things that you're going to be exposed to and taught, and really like see this as a huge opportunity to grow. I think that would be a big thing. It's just, this is a massive opportunity for you to actually learn and to grow. If you do that, if you actually, apply the things that you teach and you actually do the things that we're told and taught to do, and just see this as a way that you can really massively, whatever you're struggling with is probably the best thing that you can do to grow, right? So by doing that, the impact is going to be huge, not just on the business side, but it's also going to be huge on other parts of your life too, because ultimately none of these things are disconnected. Of course, it's all down to you, right? It's all your, like, the filter that it goes through. So yeah, probably yeah, I'd give him a hug and then I'd tell him like this is a huge opportunity to grow.
I love it. Sam, thank you so much for taking the time for this conversation today. I know it's been inspiring for those that are going through their own journey of transformation. And so, yeah, thank you again, man. And I'll see you real soon,
thank you.
brother.
Thanks for everything. It's been awesome to go through this with you. And yeah, I mean, I would say to anybody that the impact and the way that you help people is very impactful. And definitely, like I said, I think there's been so many great things that I've learned, and definitely having the two sides of it, like the practical side of, like, yes, mindset, but like actually practical from somebody who is in business and is an entrepreneur, combining that with the actual mindset work that you do together is such a great and such a powerful combination. So thanks.